All right. So, as I like to say on these things, as long as everything is working the way that it needs to work, we are now live. So, hello and welcome to everyone who is watching the Written in Melanin channel. Wherever this day may have found you, I'm so glad that you are here. My name is Chelsea, better known as CM Lockhart, and I'm here with the amazing guest host, Amanda Ross, and we are here to bring some melanin to your pages. So, you guys, we are here. We have a lot to talk about, and I'm just gonna go ahead and preface this by saying that Amanda has a day job, so her guest host, we're gonna be on time today, okay? That's what we're going to do. She says, as they're already 3 minutes late, but that's what it is. That's life.
It's cool.
Yeah.
It's all right. What's up, everybody? Thanks for having me. So glad to be here to help and guest host. Audra, we love you. I hope you feel better soon.
Yes.
And yeah, hopefully I do your hosting spot proud, I guess.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. So, for anyone who is watching this now or in the future, quick update: Audra is on a brief hiatus while she is recovering with her health. So, she will be back on the channel once she is back to 100%. So, just want to make that clear. So, send her all your love, well wishes, and prayers. Check out her channel, listen to her podcast. That would definitely make her happy. And yeah, so while I'm plugging people's channels, go ahead and subscribe to Amanda's channel while you're here as well. So throwing that out there. So
Yes.
shout out to Benjamin and Mickey and Roxelle? Roxelle? How do you say your name? I've never seen you before, but hello! Welcome! I'm glad you made it to the chat. Also, yes, Amanda is outside. I need you guys to know that every time I talk to Amanda, she's outside, and it amazes me because y'all know I don't go outside. I don't do the thing. But she's always outside.
Uh,
I'm like, that's so nice.
I am, but I have this huge the shadow of my big ass head here, so hopefully it's not super distracting. No, I guess I'm taking advantage of living in California and it not being sweltering today, so thought I'd get some sun. Hopefully I don't start sneezing in 20 minutes. Forgot to take my allergy pills, so we're just gonna rock with it. We're just gonna vibe.
Oh, we're going to be reckless today.
Vibes.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that for you.
Well, like all these authors and their apologies in book marketing.
Yes. So we have a lot to talk about, you guys. And like I said, because Amanda is on a time crunch, we are going to be on time today. So we're going to go ahead and jump into these melanin spotlights. And then we're going to get into everything that has been happening in the bookish world on Book Twitter, Book Talk,
Yes.
whatever. So, Amanda, I'm going to let you go first. And then I'll go after you.
Sure. So the book I'm excited to talk about today is Darknesses by Lachelle Seville. This actually came out in May, so it's a relatively new release. It is a self-published book by a wonderful Black author. I just recently heard about them, and I'm reading this for my horror book club. So, a bit about this. It is Oasis left Blessed Falls with wings carved into her back and delusions of being an angel's vessel. A year later, she's still struggling to feel human again, until she meets Laura, a mysterious and mesmerizing woman who makes her feel closer to found than lost. But soon, Oasis learns the truth. Laura is the most recent face of the eternal Count Dracula, ruler of the shadows, chimera of the devil, and embittered victim of libel. The Van Helsing Institute has been waiting for a glimpse of the dragon's underbelly and eagerly approach Oasis for her help in a ploy to kill Dracula for good. But not all of the wounds from Blessed Falls have cicatrized, and Oasis realizes she may be a danger to Laura and to herself. No one is as dangerous as Laura, the first vampire, the devil's plaything, and the person with whom Oasis finally feels human. Oceans of time has passed since she last had a drink, and she will not let Oasis go easily. So there you go. Currently reading this. It's gothic. There's romance. It's bisexual. It's Black. I love it. I love it so much.
It sounds really good. Like, when you sent it to me, I was like, never heard this. Like, that's part of the reason why I love doing this, because I always find another book that I've never heard of. So Gotta make sure this one's added to the library, and if you find this interesting, there is a link down in the description box below. I have to disclose that's an affiliate link, but that really means nothing to you if you're going to buy the book anyway, just being honest. So it just helps support the Melanin Library to keep it running. So if you're going to get the book, please use the link in the description box. That being said, my book for today is Jinn by Jessica Cage, and if you guys do not follow Jessica Cage, she is an indie author. I follow her primarily on TikTok, but she's on like all the socials, and when I tell you, homegirl is out here doing the thing. She is out here doing the thing. When I tell you she has a backlog, she has an extensive backlog. So
yes,
this book is actually the first of the Jinn Rebellion series, and I haven't read it personally. Y'all know how I am with actually reading books, but I did see on TikTok where somebody else read it and they left a really glowing review. So the description from the book reads: in a post-apocalyptic world, the earth is divided and magic rules all, the strongest of which is about to be challenged. For centuries, Jinn has watched from afar as the powers that be fought to claim a part of the world as their own. With no stake in the game, the Jinn remained a powerful but neutral party. That was until an old friend presents Jinn with an offer he can't refuse. The love he thought he'd lost forever is still alive, and he has the map to her location. Mike wants his people freed from the slums, and Jinn has the power to make that happen. In return for his aid, Mike will lead the quest into the darkest corner of the earth to find her. With a new player on the field, everyone is on edge, and for good reason. Jinn will go to hell and back for the woman he loves, and he'll destroy anyone who gets in his way. Jinn is book one of the Jinn Rebellion series, a paranormal urban fantasy series. USA Today bestselling author Jessica Cage. If you like powerful men, second chance love stories, and epic fight scenes with dragons, you're going to love Jinn. So grab your copy today and find out just how far he will go to save the woman he loves. So, there you go. And
love it.
I love that she has used the term urban fantasy, because that is definitely something that we are going to touch on, hopefully, if we have time. So.
Oh yeah. No, we're going to talk about it, because I want to talk about it specifically, because it is something that bugs me. So yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot to talk about. So the first thing that we are going to talk about is this Rebecca Mix nonsense. So, and I'm going to say her name because we're on YouTube, so I don't have to spell it out, right?
Right.
And for those of you who have not been kind of keeping up with book Twitter, which is perfectly fine, and you missed last week where I kind of touched on it. Basically, there was this author, and she wrote a book that was basically a reverse racism with a bunch of other problems sprinkled in, right? And obviously, people called her out. I did a little bit of my own research, and people were on like Goodreads, and they were basically 1-starring her book. It doesn't come out until November, and they were leaving 1 stars on Goodreads and basically being like, hey, you need to go support books by actual people of color, BIPOC people, because this is not it. This is a racist, white supremacist fantasy, and we're not here for it, right? And so she issued a statement. I'm not going to call it an apology. I'm going to call it a statement. And if you guys are in the after chat, I will go ahead and drop it in here for you so you guys can look at it at your leisure. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and read it for you guys if you're cool with that, Amanda.
If you weren't, I was going to, because I had it pulled up.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so the book is called The Ones We Burn. Let's just also bring up the title.
Yeah.
And just to kind of add a disclaimer and another layer of fuckery to this whole thing is that people... A layer of mess.
Yeah.
Sorry. A layer of mess to this whole thing. Is that because of the way the publishing industry works, so she's traditionally published, and the author who kind of, I'll say, blew the lid off of this thing is Asia Monet.
Yes.
And she tweeted about, your sapphic author's fave being this issue, and she couldn't specifically say exactly who it was, because I think she's trying to, forge her path into traditional publishing. She already has a book out in the self-published space. And so that's another layer of this whole thing, is that we have become but Black authors once again are having to tiptoe through the tulips of all of this stuff, because they can't specifically name authors who are responsible for these things because it could ruin their bag
Right.
even before they get started.
And I feel like that's a whole conversation because, like, being on book Twitter, especially like the part of book Twitter where writers are trying to get onto that side, you know, and get into the traditional publishing space, they are very vocal about how difficult it is to get representation. And then, even once you have representation, to actually get your book picked up somewhere. And the fact that it takes so much, but also like something as simple as a tweet could impede your entire career as a black person or a person of any person of color, whereas non BIPOC people are really out here tweeting their whole life and saying whatever it is they want and writing things like this and suffering absolutely no consequence for it. It's completely wild. Um, but we could probably have a whole conversation about that in and of itself, about the flaws of publishing and how it needs to be changed drastically. But that being said, let's talk about Rebecca Mix and this statement. So after being called out for the reverse racism and facing all this backlash and stuff, this is what she said. She said, "I'd like to address some concerns raised about my upcoming YA fantasy, The Ones We Burn. I understand and appreciate the vigilance of readers who want to ensure that books are inclusive and cause no harm. While I'm hopeful I can provide clarity to readers looking for answers, I support all who don't wish to read a book they feel hesitant about. From its inception, it was imperative that the world of The Ones We Burned was an inclusive one. I am proud that this story was created in collaboration with a diverse publishing team, including the contributions of a queer Black authenticity reader whose thoughtful reading of the text in May 2021 provided deeply helpful insights." So remind me to come back to this about something that I have found out later on, right? Continuing on, it says, "Both kingdoms in the novel are ethnically diverse, multiracial kingdoms." Look at her using big words, making me stumble, okay? "Though they are royalty, a major arc of The Ones We Burn is built around Aramis and Galen, I guess that's how you say their names, coming into their power as heirs over an increasingly factional pre-industrial kingdom while interrogating the concept of rule by birthright. They are and always have been the heroes of this narrative. The plotline involving blood magic draws heavily from my own experiences of the physical consequences of trauma and my brain injury. The subsequent resolution is directly informed by the daily HGH injections to resolve my major IGF deficiency. There is no ritualistic use of blood or consumption of blood in the text." And can we also touch on the content warnings for her book when we come back around to this to discuss? Because that's also problematic. "In light of the recent dialogue, I'm grateful that my publishers have sought additional reads, both internally and from 4 external authenticity readers." So 4 people have to represent the whole race and everything that people are saying on the internet. Fantastic. "To analyze the text specifically for the concerns of reverse racism or blood libel and ensure The Ones We Burn does not cause any unintentional harm. While the consensus has been that neither is present in the text, I know individual readers cannot speak on behalf of diverse and heterogeneous communities, and the book will have to stand on its own merits when it is released to the public. But please know that we have been and will continue to do our utmost due diligence to ensure that The Ones We Burn is a story that welcomes all. Thank you, Rebecca." Yeah, it is. It is all her apology. So the thing is, this is 1, 2, 3, 4 lengthy paragraphs, and at no point is she like, "I am sorry. I apologize."
Right.
At no point is there any accountability. At no point is there any acknowledgement that she has offended a community of people. At no point does she acknowledge any wrongdoing at all. She's just like, "Well, we did this and we did that," and excuses. And it's just like, no one asked you what you did. The fact is, you did something. It was offensive. You took no responsibility for it. You're not correcting it because, congratulations, 4 people said that it wasn't offensive, but you have an entire slew of people on the internet telling you that it absolutely is. So instead of listening to the people who are vocal, who you didn't pay to give you an opinion, who are giving you opinion free of charge, you don't listen to them. But the ones who are in publishing, who probably have unspoken pressures on them to say that no, this isn't problematic because they have to get paid. This is their job, right? They don't want to ruin any connections. They said it was fine, right? And it's just kind of like, this is not it. This is not it. This is completely wrong. And honestly, if anyone knows of this excursion into whatever this is, and they continue to like buy and support her book, I will be personally disappointed. Like, at what point do we draw the line, you know? But I'm not gonna rant. Amanda, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, the whole situation has been the whole situation is multi-layered. The whole blood libel thing, for those who might not know, that's a nod to anti-Semitism, because there's this idea of Jewish people and blood libel. I'm not sure of the specifics of that, but for those who might not know and are wondering why she's having people look at blood libel, blood magic, that's why. So in addition to, what the fuck? Sorry, B. So didn't get me though. So in addition to the anti-blackness, there's also claims of anti-Semitism. So it's kind of just like a hat trick, right, for her. Which tells me that what might happen is that you have 3 Jewish people reading this and perhaps 1 black person.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that would tell me, if you're looking for both. And again, we are fully aware that there can be black people who are Jewish. That's cool, but like that's probably not who they targeted. They probably didn't narrow into that, demographic of people.
That intersectionality of people, probably not.
Exactly. What's also bothersome is, number one, she took 2 weeks, because this whole thing came out end of June. This is like before that one holiday that we're not celebrating no more. Yeah. This is before that. Okay, this is 2 weeks of silence, plus you then release this statement that basically reads like, people are telling me this, I still don't think what they're telling me is true, but I'm just gonna act like I care. But also I'm gonna tell you a little bit about my personal trauma so you'll feel sorry for me. Look, if you're apologizing, I don't need to hear about your personal things. If you had these injuries, save that for something else. Talk about that later. Talk about that. I don't care. I don't care that you have had a brain injury, that you've had this in the context of this apology. Mm-hmm. I'm not cold-hearted like that. I'm not like, oh, you had a brain injury? Who cares? No, that's traumatic. Sorry. But in the context of this apology, it doesn't belong there. Nobody gives a shit. I don't care.
PG-13. But yes.
Sorry.
I know.
That cuts too much. I'm sorry.
It's difficult. I know it is. But no, like I 100% agree with everything that you're saying, because it's just like she's bringing in aspects of this story in her personal life that hold no weight here. It's kind of like when people start crying because they want you to feel bad for them, but it's just like, you have no reason to cry here. You're not the one who's hurt. You're not the one who's being victimized. Nothing. You're crying because you're just trying to get sympathy, and you're trying to get people to care about what you're saying, because really you're just making excuses because you're 100% in the wrong with what you're doing. And it's just like, I feel for you. Everybody has struggles, but like, also, everybody has struggles. Like, you were dealing with this before you decided to publish this book, and you're trying to say that, oh, you took all the necessary steps in order to make sure that you didn't do the exact thing that people are telling you that you are doing. And it's just kind of like you saying that, oh, I took all of these steps and I took all the measures and I went through all the appropriate channels, but then still completely missing the point that you're still being offensive. You're still, painting a really bad fantasy and this power structure that we don't need perpetuated especially in our society. And it's just like, people are like, this is not it. You completely missed the mark. Instead of being like, okay, I'm going to address this, I'm going to change it, I'm going to, write a different book. I don't know. It's like, sometimes I feel like with traditional publishing, it's really like, this is the only book that I will ever have in my soul and in my spirit. And if it doesn't come out, then I will never have another chance, another opportunity. I will never be an author. And I'm just kind of like, so you're going to take that at the expense of literally multiple marginalized people. And what's crazy is just that it's not just black people. Like, you're offending so many groups of people at one time. And literally everyone is telling you that no. It's just, it makes no sense.
Yeah, and I mean, it's also including the consensus is that it doesn't in the letter was very unnecessary and felt very much like a backhand to the people that are raising valid concerns. While, yes, the statement of, no group is a monolith applies, but somehow it always seems to be the people that want to say that seem to be the people that are doing wrong shit and want to act like, oh, well, I can be a hotep. That's okay. Black people aren't a monolith. And it's like,
nah, homie, that's not how that works. It's not how any of this works.
Like this one black person, sensitivity reader, identified this, but she's wrong because not everybody thinks like that. Which, on the surface, is true, but that's not your place. Like, you are not part of the community. You are not Black Rebecca Mix. And so it is not your place to be like, well, this one person says it is and this one person says it isn't. So I'm going to go with a person that fits my narrative. That's not your place.
No.
And the sad part about all of this is that the book is still going to sell. She's still going to have readers. There's people gassing her up in the comments, talking about how proud they were of her apology and that she apologized and we need to move on. No.
If the words "I apologize" are not in the paragraph, the whole essay that you write, those two words specifically together in the context of admitting that you did something wrong, it's not an apology. And I don't. That's why I said I can't even call this an apology. It's a, like Miss Woman of Color Reader said, it's a non-apology. It's a statement of fact. This is what I did, so accept it. And it's just like, no, that's not how any of this works. And like you said, if you have a sensitivity reader, you're essentially asking them to be a monolith if you're not having multiple sensitivity readers. And I'm going to throw this out, and this may be a controversial opinion, but it's also like, if you need multiple sensitivity readers, maybe consider like your level of expertise on writing on this matter in the first place. If you are writing characters and you know that they're going to be in questionable situations, and you know that you're going to need like 8 or 10 sensitivity readers to get a complete perspective possibly of what's going on in this book, maybe question whether or not you're really qualified to like write on this topic. There's nothing wrong with being like, I don't know enough to write this in a way that's not offensive.
And there's nothing wrong with writing a book with all white characters. At this point, there's nothing wrong with it. Nobody is Look, I personally don't give a shit.
Yep.
Taki mushroom. I don't give a shiitake mushroom. Cut myself. There you go. I don't give a shiitake mushroom if a chanterelle, a button mushroom, if white authors include non-white people in their book. At this point, I don't care, because it's been proven time and again that most of them cannot write us with the nuance that is required. Like humans, because we're always either in fucked up, shushed up positions. We're in.
Okay, I'm gonna make an announcement that this is not the PG-13 Melanin Chat, because it's not gonna work, you guys. I'm so sorry. So if you normally have children listening or you play this out loud, this is not the PG-13 chat that you're used to.
I'm sorry. I will do better.
We're talking like grown folks.
They're always,
so have at it.
They're always in messed up positions. They die first, or they're not written well, or they're dealing with trauma because of their race, or sexuality is also another thing too. Oh, yeah. And so it just feels like at this point, if you can't do it, if you can't understand the assignment, then maybe you just need to go back to the rivers and the lakes that you were used to, and we'll be fine. I occasionally will read a white drama, okay, very rarely, where it's just white people doing messy things, and it's like, okay, cool. Occasionally. I'm not in a rush to have you write a black character when you can't do it, or any other like BIPOC character. That's just my opinion, though. Some people might feel differently.
I mean, I would love for you guys listening to this to weigh in on this and what you think about it, because My opinion on it is, and it's very much shaped by the things that I have been seeing on Twitter over the last couple of days. But it's like I have seen more black readers just straight up say that they're just reading black authors almost exclusively at this point, because they're like, I, instead of begging for representation, I can just go to the place where I can get it. And there's this idea that, like Amanda said, like if you can't do it, no one's faulting you. No one's mad at you for not doing it. They're mad at you for doing it incorrectly. You know, I don't care if you
Right.
don't know how to bake a cake. I'm mad if you bake a cake and you try to bring it to my party knowing good and well that you failed. Okay? Baby doll, it's fine. Just tell me that you can't do it so I can go buy a cake from somebody who knows how to make one. That's it. That's it. Just bake your cookies that you know how to make, and leave it at that. Okay, just know that nobody wants them at their birthday party. It's fine. Okay, stay in your lane. Take them to the cookout. Take them to, PTA dinners.
Not the cookout. Don't have them bring it to the PTA dinner.
Take them to the PTA dinner. Take them to Cheryl's brunch. Okay, that's
Cheryl.
fine.
Not Cheryl. Shout out to Cheryl Lee Ralph for being an Emmy-nominated actress now for Abbott Elementary. Derailing this. We're going to take the name Cheryl back here.
I mean, it is what it is. And I feel like because there's such a call for diversity in books, like so many people have just like clung to that, and it hasn't become what it should have been in the beginning, which is a call for diverse authors authentically writing diverse stories. Because here's the thing, it's just white authors who are writing white characters were writing authentic stories for them. That was their experience. The problem isn't that those were the stories that they were writing. The problem is that the market was so saturated with that is not the only experience in America, in life, in the world, globally. And those were the only books that were getting any screen time, any traction, any noticeability. And it's just like, so when there was a call for diversity, it should have been a call for diverse authors to diversify the books on the shelves for people who are also writing their authentic experience, instead of being like, okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to keep the same bunch of authors, but we're going to force them to include characters that they know nothing about, that they're not trying to do research for, that they're not trying to authentically show, that they're not trying to make sure that they're written well, and they're going to put them into situations where even though they're included in the book, they're not in positions where anybody could see themselves, because they're the side character, they're the character that dies first, or they have to live at every intersectionality that could possibly exist. They have to be black, queer, and disabled, because you have to have all three of those in your book, but instead of actually having accurate representation, you just decide to throw it all into one person. It's just like,
Yeah. Yeah, and it's also the other aspect of this whole thing that I'm frustrated with is, but I'm unfortunately not surprised, is Chloe Gong, who is eerily quiet throughout this whole thing. Now, Chloe Gong is an Asian author. She blurbed the book, gave it 5 stars on Goodreads. Now, her Goodreads review has since been deleted, but her blurb is front and center on the book, apparently.
Well, I feel like she wouldn't have control over the blurb on the cover of the book.
Oh yeah, no. But it's again wanting, but also not being surprised that another person of color doesn't see the anti-blackness. Not surprising. It's not surprising, but it makes me hesitate to read their work.
So correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to drag a woman who doesn't need to be dragged, but isn't Chloe Gong also the Asian author who was in that little group chat with that woman who basically stole this other woman's work about, was it like donating? She donated some organ or whatever, and she kept talking about it, and her friends got sick of it.
The bad art friend situation.
Wasn't Chloe Gong one of the authors in that little person of color group that was dragging that white woman in their personal conversation?
I honestly don't know. It wouldn't surprise me. I think she got dragged recently on social for something she said about being a young author, because I think she's only in her early 20s, so I don't know if it was her.
And
it could have been somebody else. Yeah, I just know that she's recently gotten some heat on social for a couple other things. And look, my issue isn't, they probably have the same publisher. They probably went, hey, we need some validity to this book, will you read it? And she probably went, sure. and then read it. It's exciting when you get asked to blurb somebody's book. I know that I get excited about it. But at the same time, I do think that you should probably, if you read the book and notice a couple things wrong, say something.
Honestly,
Now, again, that makes you wonder, did she notice anything wrong? Which is, again, another issue of anti-Blackness and how pervasive it is and how some people don't even recognize when they're reading something that is anti-Black.
and I would also say that it would probably add a layer of, if even if she noticed it was wrong, she was like, well, it doesn't have to do with my particular group of people. And because of her proximity to it, she was like, well, I'm going to blurb it anyway because this book is still going to be successful. And I want my name attached to it because it's going to help sell my book. So even though it's harmful, I'm going to take that risk. I'm going to take that gamble. And as Benjamin pointed out, she might not have even read the book because I know some authors are probably giving really generic blurbs and having just like skimmed the book and not have read it, because that's something else that they probably do in the scheme of everything else that they're doing, especially depending on how many books they have to, they're offered to blurb. But I do want to point out that authors have the ability to say no. Just because someone asks you to blurb a book doesn't mean that you have to agree to it or accept it. I know this because when I was working on LaCase's book, Across the Broken Tide, there were definitely people that we reached out to blurb the book who were just like, thank you for thinking of me, but I'm not going to be able to do this. So it's not a guaranteed thing just because someone asks you to do something. The word no exists in literally every language. So.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think the last I'll say, because I really want to talk about the book marketing vibes that we're seeing now. I just think it's a really shitty situation. Unfortunately, I won't be surprised if this does still do well, because all of this controversy is good for the publisher. Maybe not her, the author, but it's good for the publisher because more books will be sold, because you do have people that are like actively saying, yes, but I think you're going to have a lot more people that are going, well, they don't know what they're talking about. They just want to be upset about everything. Woke culture, that whole thing. And
which is wild.
We'll read it just to, because, like, I've seen reviewers talk about it. Like, my name is Mariness. She's a booktuber, and then I follow her on TikTok, and she's done a series about this and has had people in her comments talking about, well, somebody else was Black that read it and left a 5-star Goodreads review, so why are you complaining? Which is...
Yeah, we're not even going to get into that because there are so many levels to this, and it's just like, the thing that I don't like about arguing with people on the internet is that they are so inconsistent and they like to flip-flop to whatever logic makes sense for them in that moment. Because it's just like, you understand that the world does not work this way. Because honestly, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that on the public live. Caught myself. Good job, Chelsea. Good job. All right.
Save it for the after chat.
Saving it.
If you want to hear what Chelsea has to say.
Because that was about to be hella rude. I'm not even going to lie.
Okay. But I do want to know, so type it out just for me so I know what you're saying, because I can't be in the 2 p.m. thing.
Yeah, just remind me to say what I was going to say about monoliths and white people. So we'll revisit that. Also, this is your fun, gentle reminder that if you're watching this, please go ahead and tap the like button because it helps the algorithm. So that being said, let's move on to the next part of the thing that we came here to talk about. And that is book marketing that has been going on in the last, last day or so, week or so? I don't know. But I saw it on Twitter, and Miss Woman of Color Reader also brought it to our attention. And it's just kind of like, there are absolutely people out here. I said absolutely because Ash made a comment and it popped on the screen, and then I read it and then my mouth said it. So that's not what I meant to say, actually. But there are really people out here who have decided that the way we need to market books at this point is we're not going to tell you what it's about. We're not going to include sentences at all, even though you're about to pick up a book full of pages of sentences. We're just going to put like a couple of bullet points on the back of the book to tell you what kind of tropes are in the book. And that's going to be it. And Amanda and I have had this conversation off screen, I want to say, about basically books just being purely vibes. Like there's no content, there's no sustenance. It's just vibes, right? And I feel like that is what's happening in traditional publishing at this point, where it's just like no one is actually giving sustenance. They're just it's like it's a vibe. I'm here for the friends to lover vibe, right? It's like what does that even mean, homie? So I don't. I'm gonna say that I don't care for this trend, just like I did not care for it when they were just like putting two sentences, like a quote from the book on the back with nothing but a bunch of like quotes from other people, and they don't tell you anything that's about the book. I feel like this is in the same realm as that. You know what I want to know when I pick up a book and I flip it over to the back? You know what I'm looking for? A summary. That's why you put things there. You know what I'm looking for, and you're intentionally not giving it to me, and I don't appreciate that. But that's just me. That's just me.
Okay, so this whole thing is giving auntie or not even auntie. Parent trying to be cool and keep up with the trends that their kids are doing, but they don't fully understand the context, so that they're doing it wrong. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I have talked before, I did a whole video on my TikTok about how specifically with fantasy and specifically with magic systems, that you can't just have this stuff be vibes. You need to have rules. You don't have to explain everything, every single minute detail, but you need to have rules because it will take your readers out. And I feel like we're experiencing that as well. People are so, because even last week there was some quote about how publishers are going to start looking at books that are popular on TikTok and picking those up. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm assuming they mean authors marketing their work on TikTok or whatever, or maybe indie books that are published, whatever, right?
Right.
Going to TikTok to find their next book, which we know will leave out a huge swath of Black authors, a huge swath of other people of color authors, because that's just the way TikTok is. And with this whole vibe thing is, those things need to be used in marketing. The tropes, that's your marketing hook. That is the first thing you should say to hook your reader. Hey, do you like books with enemies to lovers? Let me tell you about this book. And then, boom, you've hooked somebody because they go, I like enemies to lovers. Or if they don't, they'll keep scrolling. And that's cool because you don't need the people that weren't going to rock with you anyway. Put a blurb on the back of your book. It is lazy. You should be able to know and explain your book very quickly. And if you can't, as you're writing it, just get in the habit of figuring out how to pitch your book. Because if you're going to talk about it on Twitter, if you're going to talk about it on TikTok, if you're going to talk about it anywhere, you got to know how to explain your book. This is lazy. It's ridiculous. I feel like that scene in Clue where I'm like flames on the side of my face. It's also really hot out here, so that's probably why.
I mean, you decided to sit outside, homie.
I did it to myself.
But no, like I get what you're saying, because it's just like I get it, especially as indie authors, we get it. You have to market your book, and you don't necessarily have the entire attention span that you probably need. But here's the thing: if you can't capture someone's attention span with the summary of a book, that tells them what they need to know about your book, so that they're not purchasing something that they don't want. Because here's the thing: when you write the summary, you're also giving them a very brief introduction to your writing style. You're introducing them to the aspects of your book that you think are important, and you're giving them more context, especially people who enjoy reading. Context clues are everything, and you're giving them so much just from putting a paragraph or two on the back of the book, letting them know what it's about. Even if you put like an excerpt from a pivotal moment in the book on the back, because I know Christina Forrest did that with her books. I Want to Be Where You Are, and this is Now That I Found You, right? She didn't actually put a summary. She put like an excerpt from the book, but even then it still shows you her writing style. It shows you the characters. It shows you their interaction. It shows you whether or not this might be something that you're going to like, that you're going to enjoy, that you might want to spend more time on. And the concept that, oh, I want to pick up a book because it's like enemies to lovers and forced proximity and okay, that tells me absolutely nothing. That doesn't tell me the character's name. That doesn't tell me what type of setting it is, what age group it is, what demographic it is, what if it's urban, if it's fantasy. It doesn't tell me anything that I actually want to know about the book. It just
Yeah.
tells me that okay, there are two people and they're enemies to lovers. It doesn't even tell me if it's queer or not. And if it's like if I'm looking for that, you're not giving me the information that I need, and I'm more likely to skip the book than to give it a try. And the other
Yeah.
thing that I feel like they miss with this is there are people who do reviews. And it's like if you read a book or you read multiple books and you're trying to do a review and you're trying to refresh yourself, you're going to glance at the summary to like be like, oh, that was the character's name. You're not going to sit there and reread the whole book from cover to cover to do a review. And it's like I feel like they're also missing out on that. I'm ranting, so I'm going to like rein myself back in, but it
No,
doesn't
you're
make
good.
any sense.
No, I mean you're absolutely good. I think it's also to bring in another example that we had today as well. Was the Tiffany D. Jackson, her marketing. So the other thing about when you use these tropes is that it can be problematic because you don't know.
You know what?
Okay.
I'm be real.
I'm about to go off.
You what?
That irritates me.
Oh,
It irritates me because it's like you have to you have to know your book. And I'm saying this not just as an author who has published multiple books at this point. I'm saying this as a marketer. I've been a marketer for 10 years. Like I've been in the game for 10 years. You have to clearly define your product and market it to the right audience. And if your audience doesn't know what you're selling, they're not going to buy it. And buzzwords are fine, but you have to then be able to back it up. And when you're putting it on the back of a book, when you're doing those images where it's like the book and then things that are happening, it's fine. But make sure you choose what you talk about with your book wisely. Nobody in there that I know of wants to see a book explanation like that and go, oh, there's a history of segregation. Oh, there's racism. Oh, it's black girl passing, even though the passing is in the book description. I don't know anybody that's going to see those things and go, oh, I'm going to read this. Anybody black, let me say. Because I certainly don't want to deal with racism, racist students. That's another thing. Who wrote this? I feel like she didn't have a part in writing that.
and I feel like you hit the nail on the head of people. Her marketing is doing exactly what it's meant to do. It's just that her book is very clearly at this point not targeted toward a black demographic because there is no way a black reader is going to see racist students, white passing, microaggressions. The microaggressions is really the one that took me out because I'm like, baby,
Right.
you got me all types of twisted. If you think I'm about to sit here and read a book about a white passing girl with racist classmates who she has to face microaggressions every single day of her life, and then we have like overbearing parents or whatever else it was. And it's got a long history of segregation. You're telling me that literally nothing about this book is going to bring me any type of happiness or joy, and
Right.
I'm just not here for it. I'm not here for it.
Yeah.
And to answer the question, what happened with Jackson's marketing? Literally, if you look up her next book, what is it? I
The
forgot.
weight of blood.
The Weight of Blood. Yes, her marketing. The way there's a picture of it. I'm sure it's probably on her Instagram. I haven't seen it, but I'm
It's
guessing.
also on her Twitter, I think, as well.
Yeah. So if you go and look at it, you can see the full infographic with everything that she put on there. But it was literally nothing happy. And it's just like when you're marketing your book, you're trying to pull in the people who are going to like your book, not push away the people who are going to give it a chance because you've already built a following with them. And the thing that kind of gets me with this is that let me be clear. I have no issue with Tiffany D. Jackson, but I am not a Tiffany D. Jackson fan. I read White Smoke. I did not care for White Smoke. It wasn't terrible, but it was not good, and I did not like the ending at all. So, with that in mind, it's just like I feel like she is reaching. She started out with a market like with Monday's Not Coming, and allegedly that people rant and rave about, and are like these are really good. And the more books that she wrote in traditional publishing, the further and further she got away from targeting a black audience. And I don't know if that's intentional or
Yeah.
on her end, and that's pure speculation on my part. but that's what it
Well,
kind of
it's
feels like at
also,
this point.
yeah. And I read Grown as well. That was a book I read by her. It was the first book I read of hers. And I know people have mixed feelings about it. I had mixed feelings about the book because there was a lot you could tell was directly inspired by the singer who we do not talk about,
Ah,
and that claims. But if you saw the documentary, then you were reading the book going, oh, I remember this, I remember this. Some people might feel a way about how directly inspired it was. I thought that there were moments that really were introspective of black girlhood, the concept of being fast, and how if you develop early, how your family might treat you. So there were moments in it that I was like, this is really important to discuss. White Smoke did not like it. I love horror. I saw the cover for The Weight of Blood and was like, ooh, yes. And then I read what it was about and I was like, no, no. Because as soon as I saw that she was passing, I was like,
yeah. And I also feel
it's
like
not for me.
there's this aspect to publishing where it's just like, um, talking about how D.L. White said it's intentional. Publishing thinks white people are the only audience that matters. I also feel like it's in publishing. They're like, okay, well, you have spent time building up this black audience, so we no longer need to cater to them or care about what they want or actually want to read because they're going to support you anyway. Kind of like how
Right.
when musicians are like, oh, yeah, when you first come out and your first album is great and your second album is great, but then by your third album, nobody really deals with you anymore because you're mainstream now and you're just banking on the people who supported you from the beginning continuing to support you even though you're not making that kind of music anymore, you know?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, with the music thing, but we could have a whole conversation about that, but it's very like when Pink first came out, her sound is a lot more hip hop inspired, and now then she had her whole rock moment, and now she's in the pop space. And that happens to a lot of artists. Either they start poppy, they have their Christina, Dirty, the Miley Cyrus, the hip hop influence phase, and then when their second they feel like they've hooked a black audience, they abandon that and then move on into more, I don't want to say wholesome, but like going back to country or going back to pop or whatever, and basically going, oh well, I don't care about this audience that helped me get big. Obviously, I'm not here to drag Tiffany D. Jackson.
Not at all.
I don't plan to read this book. I think the marketing is shit, and I think that authors should be more careful. And it's another reason why I am self-published. It's another reason why I won't be doing traditional, because I have control over the things that my book, over the marketing, over what I say about my book. And you better believe that with this book that I just wrote, that there's no racism, there's no homophobia. You better believe that I am using that in my marketing. I am talking about how black and how queer this book is, and if you don't like it, then that's okay. You don't have to read it.
I love how she got really nice at that point. But no,
I was like, let me stop myself from getting off.
But no, like I 100% understand. And you know what's interesting is like as I'm reading the comments, White Smoke is like a lot of our first introductions to Tiffany D. Jackson, because White Smoke was also my first introduction to her, and it wasn't what it needed to be. But no, like I said, the fact that I am indie for many of the same reasons that you just listed out, is like I can do what I want. And I kind of knew subconsciously in the back of my mind, once I decided exactly what We Are the Origin was going to be, that I'm like, there is absolutely no person who's going to be like, yes, we're going to take this black girl who is absolutely rude to everybody, who is murdering people, and is very not nice to the only character who, by the way, to be clear, I said this on my website and I have said this on this channel, but all of my characters are black unless stated otherwise. And at no point in my book do I state that any of my characters are not black. They have certain features that may not normally show up in our normal day-to-day lives, but everybody in my book is black. Just throwing that out there. So it's just like, but knowing that, it's like, ain't nobody finna sign off on this, and I'm definitely not finna change it. So
Yeah.
if you like book descriptions, I do have a summary on the back of We Are the Origin, so feel free to like purchase a copy so you can read it. Just
I love now let me just give you your flowers, because your book description is everything. I love your book description.
Thank
it gives everybody a really good idea of your writing style and how good it is. And so it's great. And I just want to say the same about my books. Well, this book in particular. Everybody's black, everybody's queer. And my main character and her mentor are also plus size, and they're tall black women. And I wasn't going to change it. I wasn't going to then start making her look like Kat Graham, who I love, but like, no. I very intentionally made Zora the way she is. She's on the cover. I'll be doing a cover reveal soon, so you'll see it. But yeah.
I'm so excited.
No.
I'm ready to see the final thing. But yeah. Also, we're at 4:52, and I know that you have time constraint. But
well, do we have any comments? We can talk about answer some comments or address some comments before
yes.
I log off.
So a couple things. Miss Woman of Color Reader pointed out that white passing is the new way that traditional is trying to double dip and have a safe main character for the white readers, because I agree, because it's like she's black, but she's also not black enough to be considered that. And it's just like, what even is that? What is this obsession with getting away from blackness when it's gonna say something else rude. I'm gonna write that down as well. Not gonna say that on the live. But yeah.
I agree. It's like when a lot of white authors write biracial characters because they want just a tinge of blackness. Like in The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, I was listening to Bow Ties and Books review of that book, and how
don't spoil it for me. That's on my watch later list.
Okay, well, there's a biracial character in the book who's very adamant about, I'm not black, I'm biracial. And I was like, okay.
All right. That's cool.
I can't relate. No, because I would never. If somebody was... Anyway,
just like,
the foolishness.
That's not me. But also, you have some questions for In the House of Transcendence. Also, Miss Woman of Color Reader just want to point out said that her friend bought my book because she loved the summary, and I'm like, thank you. I hope she enjoys it.
Yes.
She likes it. So, okay. But yes, also asking about the cover for In the House of Transcendence, and when are you planning to do a cover reveal, because we are all anxiously waiting with bated breath.
Okay, so it'll be the last week of this month. My final cover is due to me on the 25th, so last week of this month. If you want to help me reveal the cover on your socials, please, you can hit me up on here, in the Melanin Network. You can also hit me up on my individual socials and let me know. I would really appreciate it, because I want as many people to see this wonderful cover as possible.
And if you're watching this in the future, you can just leave a comment on this video, and I will put you in touch with Amanda if you want to help share her cover. So, also her channel is tagged in the title of this because I finally got that feature. So you can also head over to her channel and get in contact with her there as well. So
yes,
I'm excited for everything that we have coming down the pipeline. Like, y'all are going to absolutely love In the House of Transcendence. Like, I cannot wait for y'all to get y'all hands on it, because Amanda is spectacular. Like, I loved her Witch Kind series, but when I tell you In the House of Transcendence is a special kind of book that is just like,
it is.
Why have we not had this book in the world earlier? And when are we going to get another one like it? Because I know, like, she's still technically not even fully done and this book hasn't come out yet, but I'm still ready for like the next one. That's how excited I am for y'all to read this book. It's going to be amazing. You're going to love it. Like the fashion, oh my god, the magic, you're gonna love it. You're gonna be sick of me talking about Amanda, I swear to God. But
prepare to be sick of me. Prepare to be sick of me.
If you're not on TikTok, you're not gonna get it, and I'm so sorry. But that is it for the Melanin Chat, you guys. as you guys know, we are going to take this over to the after chat, and I did write down the stuff that I wanted to talk about, so I'm not going to forget. So if you haven't joined already, you can go ahead and head over to patreon.com/written in melanin, sign up for the $5 tier or higher, and it gets you into the after chat. It gets you into our little community, and it's a really fun place to be, and you'll be helping to support the Melanin Library to make sure it continues to exist as a resource, because it's an online database of books written by Black authors, and we have almost 3,000 books in the database at this point, and it is still continuously growing. So if you're looking for your next read and you're not sure what to look for, head over to the Melanin Library. It's sorted by genre and age range. You will find something, unless you don't want to. I mean, then I can't help you. So
unless you don't want to.
But that being said, if you have made it this far, please go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notifications so that you do not miss the next one. And that being said, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, you guys, I hope your days are lovely and your books are interesting. Also, Amanda's links are down in the description box. How y'all let me forget that? Amanda's links are down in the description box. So click on her link tree, get the Witchkind series, subscribe to her channel, follow her on all of her socials. She's Amanda the author, either with 1 E or 2. So follow her. She's amazing. And definitely check out her TikTok because she gives amazing advice. Okay, now I'm done for real. Thank you guys so much for being here. And until next time, I hope your days are lovely and your books are interesting. Bye.
Bye.